Oh, that might have done it in, guys. What is up, guys? Welcome back. Today's the day. Today's the day, fam. I have in my hot little hands the brand new M Cosmetics Faded Clementine colorway in her Divine Skies Eyeshadow palette and my beloved lip cushion. So this is what this palette looks like. And if you're looking at it and you're like, wow, Khaki, that's pretty intense. That doesn't really look like there's a lot of exit strategies there. You would be correct, but I am led to believe that this is predominantly for deeper skin tones. And Faded Clementine, you might hear that and think orange. Again, you would be correct. And orange is probably one of the toughest shades for me to wear, and so we're gonna make it work today. We're gonna rely on some of my mainstay cool toned products that are going to help us get out of trouble. We're gonna pull a few things from here and there to pull a rabbit out of a hat, but mainly this video is going to be a brutal lesson in color theory. And trying to make something that does not look particularly native to my complexion look good and wearable. And I'm not gonna lie, it's gonna be touch and go at moments, okay? Just bear with me, we're gonna make something pretty happen. So I'm gonna move you guys in and we will get to putting some makeup on my face. Did I set that up with enough caveats for you guys? Like, do you feel properly prepared for me to do a terrible job and forgive me? So I am just quickly going to zoom through my regular complexion routine. Lately, I have been obsessed with the Arrive Beauty Skin Boost. And I would absolutely use her skin cushion today. Skin cushion? I'm not sure that's what that's called. I think it's called the Daydream Cushion. And it is a beautiful, very, very lightweight skin tint, but my skin needs a little more coverage than that today. Okay, I'm also going to go in with my other favorite. This combo was in my favorites video. The Kosas Revealer Concealer. This is the fairest shade that they make, and it is actually a perfect complexion match for me, and that is good because I have been moving away from brightening concealers. Using my little Eco Tools brush, I love this size of a complexion brush for a cream product. It just blends so beautifully. And it's rounded. Oh, I just love it. We are going to do my eyes first because I think that, especially dealing with orange and something, like I said, that is not necessarily native to my complexion, I want to be able to strategize as I go after I've done the eye look. I want to be able to strategize with the blush and make sure everything looks okay. And the main thing that I found here was that we're not really going to be able to end up with something subtle. We're problem solving here, and that's because I kind of have to blank it out and start from scratch in order to make this color story look right on me, because even my lips showing through, it'll look weird. But understand that I review these kinds of things because I'm only one human being with my particular melange of undertones. All of the reasons that I might find something challenging or imperfect or not work for me could be, and often are, all of the reasons that you see something and go, that is going to be exactly what I've been looking for. So that's why I'm doing it. And also because, as I say all the time about M Cosmetics, Michelle Phan has a way with color, and even a color that doesn't necessarily look that great on me, she can find a way to find a version of that color that works. This is she. My goodness, is that pretty. Very, very different from the original Divine Skies Eyeshadow palette, which I will say looks very native on me. So let's go ahead and do a little bit, of swatching here. The saturation on these is so unbelievably beautiful. Oh yeah, you know, you see that, well, that was great, Khaki. You see the swatches online all the time and they're always so perfect, and you guys always see mine, which are truthful at best, and they're usually really bad. This actually looks like the swatches that are online. I mean, not perfectly shaped, but the saturation is the same, meaning that, you know, there's no smoke and mirrors. This is exactly as saturated as it looks online, and I think that their swatches on her website and on her Instagram and everything are really, really true to form. We are gonna be playing mostly in the oranges today because I do want to show those to you guys. That is the Faded Clementine of it all. We're going to dip into them a little bit, obviously. I wanna show you, I'm probably gonna use almost every shade that's in here, but I want the local color on the lid to be orange. I want it to read orange. A lot of people do ask me for full videos on color theory for all skin tones, and I gotta tell you guys, that is above my pay grade. I am not a makeup artist. I am not a trained makeup artist. I have not done makeup on anybody but myself, ever. And so I can't speak to that necessarily. I just know that, you know, when I was in the Ilia Masterclass, for example, with Jenna Anton, I'm actually gonna start with the orange shade right here, just the matte shade, and I'm gonna work that kind of all over the lid and a little bit into the crease just to get us started. So when I did that masterclass with Jenna Anton, we had exactly one, count 'em, one black girl in the entire masterclass, and it was all focused around the balmy glosses. I did it. Found it in my brain. The balmy glosses, and that is the one where you hear the criticism of that shade range all the time, that they were mostly pink, and that would not have stricken my little white girl heart sideways at all a year ago. I would have been like, well, there's a pink for everybody, right? Why would there be a pink for everybody? Not everybody's skin has pink in it. And so when they opened the floor for questions, this black girl influencer very sweetly asked, are there any shades in this range or planned in this range that are going to have any orange undertones in them? And we kind of caught everybody in the class on their back foot. They were like, well, no, I mean, I guess that there are some that are a little bit more coral. And she was like, huh, okay, I don't know. These just don't really like work on me that well, kind of thing. And that was the beginning of me starting to understand that while orange is a color that doesn't look super great on me, it's for good reason. There are a lot of skin tones that it looks fantastic on. That in combination with the intensity of this was, I think, her answer to maybe a little bit of criticism that the original Divine Skies eyeshadow palette was not necessarily as accommodating to deeper skin tones. But I am getting a pretty good wash here, which is more than I can say for a lot of very pigmented eyeshadows. We talked about that in my Raw Beauty Kristi palette video, where when something behaves a little bit too much like a pressed pigment, you really only get payoff and ideal look or the ideal performance out of it when you press it on and let it be isolated and then just sort of carefully blend in between. And you have to have a game plan going in. I mean, I would argue you kind of always have to have a game plan going in. That's often the challenge. That's often the trade-off of a very pigmented eyeshadow, is that it won't really blend very well. These are super pigmented, but look at the flexibility of coverage. I'm able to get a really sheer wash with them, which is super uncommon. Okay, where to next? Where to next? Where to next? I'm gonna take a flat brush here and I'm going to start with the kind of deeper orange shimmer shade. And I'm gonna put that right here. And the payoff is unbelievable. Her shimmer formula is ridiculous. It's so pretty. Because most of the time when you're working with a really good creamy shimmer formula, you still won't necessarily get all the payoff you're looking for with a brush. Even a really nice brush, like the Wayne Goss brushes. Some formulas just don't want to cooperate under those circumstances, and these absolutely do. Usually you have to go in with your finger. Okay, so I'm actually going in next with this sort of apricot-y orange, and I'm gonna use that on the inner third here. Oh my gosh. I think that's my favorite color in the whole palette, is that like goldy apricot color. It's like a light dreamsicle. Do they have names? Ooh, they do. That one is called Nostalgia. And I'm going to take Nostalgia and I'm gonna go underneath my eyes as well. And this is just me trying to keep my eye on the ball. I'm like, orange, 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 khaki, stick with the orange, because it is my instinct to lean into those purples, because that would be a lot easier for me, frankly. And I'm glad that that is the combo. I think that that does lend itself well, because it's not cool toned, but when this layers on, I'll show you guys, I'm gonna kind of deepen my crease with this. It works really well, like surprisingly well with orange. This brush is probably a little too big to be doing what I'm doing with it, but nonetheless. Let's take some of that deep shade that we call, it's called Eden. And that's what I'm going to, I don't know, make almost like a faux crease with, because when I'm dealing with this many shimmers and stuff, I kind of have to make my eyes look a little bit bigger. I always want to make my eyes look bigger, but I guess my point is they tend to kind of close my eyes off, because it's like it grabs so much light that the crease shade can then sort of look like, I don't know, a circle around my eyelids. So blending is key, and giving myself a little bit of extra credit on the crease that I don't necessarily come by naturally, it can be very helpful. A little goes a long way. You see how I'm not like digging right into my crease, I'm kind of above it. Cutting a new crease, if you will, but definitely not as detailed as many people are capable of doing. And that's pretty much as much of like the real estate on my eyeballs that we're gonna be able to get away with covering with this. I'm gonna keep working on the area we've already put shadow on, but it is not the best look if I keep dragging this intense of a color story all the way up to my eyebrows. It's just not the look that I'm going for today. And I'm gonna take the orange shade again, same brush, and I'm going to use it on the edge here, and we're gonna just blend that purple into that orange, and shockingly, it works. I can't explain it. I don't really know what the secret to her formula is, or what the secret to anybody's formula is, but that's what I always talk about, is this pie in the sky idea, right? Or I guess, what would you call it? Like a holy grail. Holy grail. We always talk about holy grails. We think of holy grails, oh, this is this thing that we forget that holy grail is something that you pursue for a very, very long time, and it's actually really hard to find. And so that is what I mean by my use of the term holy grail today, is that we always talk about that formula that you can layer two very dissonant colors on top of each other and still get the impact of both colors, and you don't make mud. And this is one of those formulas. I'm like shocked that I'm layering orange on top of purple, which should not make sense. The yellow and the purple should mix together and make brown or mud or gray, but they don't. Somehow you're still getting this lovely distinct orange, which is kind of a tomato color at the end of the day. The first time I tried this, I did it all over my lid with that tomato color, and it worked. I made it work, but it was not easy. All right, I'm just using that kind of here too. Ooh. That's already super duper intense, you know, and I want to concentrate the intensity. So I'm going to take my brush and clean it off. That's what I'm doing right now in my lap, doing weird things off camera. I'm gonna go into my No BS palette because, again, just love this gigantic pan of a neutral shade on my skin. And that's what I'm gonna use to blend up here. It moves around really beautifully after the fact. I just feel like it's so creamy and does such a good job of blending that you might not have an escape route in terms of a shade in the palette, but you have an escape route in terms of the formula because it moves around after you put it on your skin. It's not like, oh my God, what am I gonna do, you know? But I do feel like I need a little bit of something right here, so I'm gonna actually dip into here. You could find you know, a light pink shade in any palette. This just happens to be what I have in front of me from the Khaki Haze palette. And I'm gonna use that to reestablish this color right here that I feel like is happening when I blend the purple into that pale, pale shade that I used on my brow bone, but instead I'm going to use a color that is that pink. You know, bring up the intensity so that it looks intentional and my veins aren't all showing through. That's what I'm talking about. We're problem solving here. The next big problem solving thing, and yes, I'm going in with this Hourglass bronzer. I told you guys that if I use this on camera, I was going to basically say, I'm not buying from Hourglass anytime soon until they expand their shade ranges. But I'm going to use the products that I still have on hand. So this is our first kind of life hack here. This is a very cool toned bronzer. And so I'm going to be using this not just as my contour on my face, but also up here. And it will kind of almost undetectably, look at that, just the difference between those two eyes, putting that in my crease, it builds the coolness that makes it believably recede from the eye. That is what cool tones do. They make things believably recede from the eye, while this brightness right here, not just in undertone and temperature, but also the fact that it's shimmery is going to grab light and it's going to make it look like it's coming right at you. And so enhancing that contrast is going to make it look more believable, because if you were to like put that all the way up, you would lose the effect. And for me, I need the cool tones in order for it to look believable. Otherwise it just looks, it kind of looks clownish, you know? It kind of just looks like blah, like crayon orange. So I just feel like that does the tiniest bit of softening. So while I have that open, I'm going to just take a fluffy brush here and dust that on the back of my cheeks. Give me a little bit of bronzer, if you will. I would use the Charlotte Tilbury, but it doesn't have enough impact for this look. This is just so saturated. When I tried it with the Charlotte Tilbury, it just got outshined by the eyeshadow, basically. The reason that I'm also being very, very careful to make a point, I guess, to announce the bronzer that I'm using, or that I'm using a good bit of bronzer, spending some time on the bronzer, is because I'm about to use an orange blush, and I'm going to use it very sparingly because it can make me look like a fool pretty quickly, but I do want to use it. And I'm going to sandwich the Faded Clementine blush in between the bronzer and a more pink blush. And we will end up with peach, because while I can't wear orange very well, I can wear peach fantastically well. Riddle me that. Okay, so this I've actually had for a while. I used it in my first Cosmetics review video, and it is quite shimmery, which is another good reason to not apply a whole lot of it. So I'm gonna just dip gingerly into there and not go nuts. We're just gonna not go nuts. And I don't want a ton of orange, and I also don't want a ton of shimmer. That's why we're going about it this way, especially with a brush of this shape. And that might be all the orange I can get away with on my cheeks. I am then actually going to go in with the Rose Quartz colorway in the Aether Cheek Palette, because it's pink. The other one is peach, and it just doesn't win over the orange quite well enough. So pinky, pinky, pink, pink. And that's gonna help the local color on my cheeks just look at that, just a little bit more at home. A little bit more like that's how we meant it. And if I really wanted to, maybe I do really want to, I can take that blush shade and put it up here in my eye look. It's a little trick I use all the time to make my cheeks look like they go with my eyes a little bit better. And I'll even use this highlight, which is a nice light pink. Do, ooh, 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 ooh. Aether knows highlighters, don't they? Oh my gosh. Whew. Oh, that is so instantaneous. And it's a pink, so it's a little bit cooler toned. And for that reason, I feel like it lends itself well to, again, making that part recede from the eye, even though it's shimmery. And suddenly we have something that looks like it makes sense on my eyeballs. How fantastic is that? We can even go a little bit more on the blush. I'm not gonna do a highlighter on my cheeks today, just because I feel like this is already enough. And real quick, I'm going to just do my brows, my eyeliner. I'm actually gonna use that deep shade of purple that is in the Divine Skies palette as my eyeliner, and I really feel like it sets the look off. I also love this packaging. It's the same packaging as the old one, just in a different color, but I love how it's really pretty, but it's very unassuming how tiny it is, and she managed to pack a whole bunch of beautiful eyeshadow in this tiny little package. Usually you get kind of frustrated with an oddly shaped eyeshadow palette in your collection, but this one's so small, it doesn't really matter. It's so funny, I have been for so long talking about how I couldn't wait for her to release more colorways in this formula, because that pink and gold was just so gorgeous, but she does have a way of making me like colors that I wouldn't necessarily wear. And then it's like as if we all said it in unison and she heard us, because this is literally the answer to that. It is a completely unexpected colorway, especially that she chose to do this purple in contrast with the orange. Look at that purple, how it lays on top of the orange as the eyeliner. Ooh, my goodness. But she also managed to make something that was just so composed and such a unique thought, I guess. I'm kind of giving away my feelings on this. I've mentioned in other videos talking about this, but I don't think I've mentioned it in this one specifically. They did send this to me. This is PR, and it is like my favorite PR list that I've been added to recently. I'm so happy. It was so funny. I think I said something on my channel. I was like, Michelle Phan doesn't know who I am. I was like, Michelle, girl, hit me up. I'd love to be on that PR list. And then, man, they reached out to me and they were like, what can we send you? And I was like, everything. And that was why I was able to do that big brand review. They especially sent me all of their lips, and oh my God, you guys, their lips are the best. So the few things that I really feel like made the difference, that made this really wearable so far, was like a cool tone bronzer, a cool tone highlighter, and just being a little bit judicious with the placement and the amount that you put on, because I could have really like screwed up my whole makeup look by putting too much orange blush on. And then we're going to follow through on that thought with a cool toned, well, it's kind of neutral, honestly, but my khaki lip liner is going to be the thing that I feel like mixes with the lip that looks better. Okay, so here she is in all of her orange glory. And I do want to say, just because it's orange and it doesn't look good on me necessarily doesn't mean that white girls can't wear orange. There are plenty of, I keep saying it doesn't work on me, therefore it's gonna work on deep skin tones. It's all about undertone, and I just don't have the undertones for it. My undertones are a little bit too, I guess a little bit too cool, I'm not really sure. But there are plenty of light-skinned, fair-skinned, medium-skinned people who can get away with wearing orange. If you are unfamiliar with this formula, it is bonkers. It is so awesome. It's like a highly pigmented lip gloss that stays put, that's in a stick form, and it's just so nourishing and wonderful. Oh, that might have done it in, guys. I think a lot of people are probably watching this going, Khaki, you're so full of crap. You just keep saying that orange doesn't look good on you, and you're making it work somehow. Maybe you're just full of crap. And then you see me put the orange lip on and you're like, oh. Yeah, it's orange. And I think that the best way to go about this that I found is to go by, I'm sorry, I'm leaning on this, but this is the Venetian Rose shade, and it is my fave, and I think that it will layer really beautifully on this. Add just a little bit of a subtle cool toned rose color and make it work, you know? That formula though, my gosh, I love it. All right, so I'm gonna move you guys out and we will talk about the price, the claims, and my final thoughts if I haven't already elucidated them. All right, so this is very much rounding out what was already a pretty robust collection of Faded Clementine products. So they already had a Faded Clementine Heaven's Glow Radiant Veil Blush, which is what I used today. Where did it go? Where? And the Faded Clementine Infinite Lip Cloud, which like I said is like their silicone matte lip. It is not a dry down liquid lip. It is like it's more like the Rare Beauty one, except I think it's better. And she also already had Faded Clementine in the True Gloss, which is one of the best formulas. It's very, very similar, honestly, to the lip cushion. Did I call it a lip cloud? Lip cushion. I'm terrible at this, but it is a little bit glossier, a little bit bouncier. So the Faded Clementine Lip Cushion Tinted Lip Luminizer is $22 US dollars, and the Divine Skies Eyeshadow Palette is $38 US dollars. Don't be fooled by the size of this palette. This is quite a bit of product. It just happens to be in a very concise little package. It says, inspired by nostalgic romantic tones, this palette is an elegant spectrum of shades ranging from soft tangerines and berry hues to warm browns with matte to shimmery finishes. Formulated in Italy with velvety pigments to mix, layer, and blend seamlessly for beautiful and lasting color payoff, this palette is your new modern essential. So it is very much, I'm actually gonna pull the other one out so you guys can see them in contrast. I feel like I'm constantly outsmarting the world when I go into my new organized drawer situation and pick out exactly what I'm looking for without having to rummage through a whole bunch of crap. I'm like, I have solved everything, when really most people are a lot more organized than I am. Not exactly my superpower. Okay, here they are. Very, very different palettes, as you can see. This one obviously is a much lighter color story, and that is why it lives on me so well. But also keep in mind, this formula goes really, really sheer and can also go really, really saturated. It's just not that common in a really saturated matte eyeshadow formula. So that's why I really can't say enough about these. It's just they're pretty remarkable. They are super, super versatile, and like you saw, the shimmers work on a brush. That's just not something you come across that often. All right, so Final thoughts. I'm not totally sure how valuable my like typical final thoughts would be in this situation, because I came into this knowing exactly what to expect, and that was that these were going to be super saturated shades that were not necessarily designed primarily for my skin tone or my undertones, and yet the way that I say Michelle Phan always manages to do it, it still somehow works on me. It's what I always say, when you go on the website and you're waffling between shades, understand that it's probably either going to look good or it's gonna look great. It's not gonna look bad. And I would say this doesn't look great. It wasn't the easiest thing in the world, but it looks good. I think it looks good. Like, I'd leave the house like this. It doesn't bother me. And I think it has everything to do with her understanding of color. She just does a really, really good job. But yeah, like I said, it's not necessarily about it being binary. Is this good or is this bad? It's all very, very good. These formulas are beautiful. I already knew that. It's just about watching it in action so that you can see, like I said, sometimes what doesn't work for me is exactly what makes a product work for you. So if you found this valuable, guys, do give it a thumbs up. Special thanks to M Cosmetics for sending me this stuff in PR. It's very, very greatly appreciated. If you'd like to keep hanging out with me on this channel, hit the button down below and subscribe. I would love it if you guys did. Thank you so much for watching and for hanging out with me today. I love you guys, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.